You catch them light, you can brag and be proud. Perfect Liars Club. Perfect Liars Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and lovers, welcome to the October 2023 edition of Perfect Liars Club! Please, welcome to the stage, your host for this evening, 2023 MacArthur Grant recipients, and the next Speaker of the House, Kara Forrest!
My fellow American. No. How's everybody doing? Alright, what I like to hear. Welcome to Perfect Liars Club. I was like, man, with the government shutdown, like everyone who works on the Hill is not probably, I know I didn't, but whatever. Speaking of shutdowns, since I last saw you, I've experienced two very distressing life events. Number one is I had COVID for the first time. I made it this whole time. I thought I was immune. I thought I was special. I would tell people in a whisper, I'd be like, I haven't had it yet. Like that would help. And then I got it. And I was being yelled at by the mother of one of my child's friends when it happened. I was like, she's yelling at me and I don't understand what she's talking about. And I was like, I don't feel good. And I went inside and took a COVID test and I was like, this week's gonna suck. And then I got over that. It was fine. It was fine. And then, well, let me go back to the beginning. So I'm a little bit disorganized. I may have talked about that on stage before. But I'm like more than a little disorganized. It's sort of a chronic problem. Like my kindergarten report cards all said, Kara is very bright, but she's very messy and disorganized and she daydreams too much. And my current performance reviews at the age of 48 are similar. Kara is bright, but she's distractible and, disorganized and messy. Thank God they don't have to see my desk anymore. Now I can hide it under, like a Teams screen, but it's still true. And the truth is, while I am 48 now, in terms of my ability to adult, I'm like 4 12-year-olds who just argue all the time about what we should do next. And as a result of that, and whatever coping skills I had have been completely eroded by having a child, which is a huge administrative burden that no one talks about. And then I lived through COVID, which for me was like 2 years of such high anxiety that I literally fried circuits in my brain, being so afraid of what turned out to be like a head cold. I mean, I know it was different then, but I was. Even though I was sick with COVID, I was like, wow, I spent a lot of time avoiding something that's not that bad. I believe in the science. Please wear your mask. Don't hate me, but I'm just saying. But then post-COVID, there was like 5 minutes where I felt like I had things under control, and I was like, you know what I should do? I should leave the job I've had for 11 years and take a new, harder job where I manage people. And so I did that. And then immediately I was like, oh, a disorganized manager is a bad manager. And I'm also a people pleaser. And I really need everyone to like me. And also, I just don't want to be a bad boss, right? I'm like proletariat to the core. I've had bad bosses. I never want to be one. Like, it's hard for me to even put on my management hat sometimes because I'm like, why are we talking about people like this? Like, well, that's performance management. But anyway, so that takes us to the beginning of this most recent chapter, which is that I signed up for a class called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I was sitting in that class last week in Reston, realizing that I don't even have one habit that a highly effective person has. And I was literally thinking like, all these people are here because they need a Band-Aid. And I'm like, my femur is like broken, like sticking out of my leg. And as I'm sitting there having this thought, my phone starts blowing up. Like every bank account I have was like, you're overdrawn, you're overdrawn, you're overdrawn, you're overdrawn. And that's because I had to pay, like a better person would have known this, but I had to pay my car tax, which is a Virginia thing, my car insurance, because I bought the car and bought the insurance on the same time, which was not good planning because they're very expensive. I signed my daughter up to play travel softball without asking how much it cost. Do you know how much it costs to play travel softball for a fucking 13-year-old? $900 just for the fees. The uniform is another $350, right? So said daughter had also broken her phone, and I was like, that's fine. I will give her my old phone, and I will buy myself a new iPhone 14. And I did that. And so here I am in this class last week. I get the first bill I've had this phone for 30 days. And my phone bill, which I also did not ask what it was gonna be, is $432.48 for me and my 13-year-old who are together 17 hours a day to communicate with each other, okay? So, so I go home, I call Verizon, I'm like, I need to return this phone. And they were like, this is the 30th day that you've had this phone. It's 6 o'clock, you've got it in the mail today, or you have to keep it and pay for it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to the UPS store. So I get up, true story, I was in bed because when Avery's not home and I get home from work, I just take a nap. And she was at softball practice. So I was in bed, but I got up, which was hard. I got in my car and I drove 1.6 miles to the UPS store in Falls Church from my home in Arlington. That number's gonna be relevant later. And I'm sitting in the parking lot and I'm like, okay, let me think this through like a real adult would. What am I gonna, once I wipe this phone back to factory settings, what am I gonna wish I had, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I already have an external password keeper that I pay $2.99 a month for. It's called 1Password, foreshadowing it's a piece of shit. So I have all my passwords, and I will text my daughter my Apple password, so I'll be able to get back into my Apple account. And that's it. So I text her my phone. I text Avery I had texted the carpool group chat to be like, I'm gonna be back in 1982, you can't contact me, just bring the kid home. I texted Avery my Apple password, which is very different from our usual relationship, which is just me trying to keep her from finding out any passwords for anything. And then I wipe my phone back to factory settings. And the minute I do, I realize I sent the shipping label to myself on Gmail. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll just go in this UPS store and I will, despite the fact that all my accounts are overdrawn, find some credit card with $5 on it to rent time on the computer. I'll log into Gmail. I'll pay them some exorbitant price to print the shipping label. We'll be on our way. But in the theme of the evening, all of my passwords have been compromised over the years. They used to all be like the same thing, and then it got leaked and I had to change them all. And I've had to change them all so many times that at this point, they're all just like a stream of gibberish. They make no sense. There's no rhyme or reason. I have no idea what's what. My phone does it all for me. And so when I go to log into Gmail, Gmail's like, no. I'm like, I'll just reset my password. You guys are you familiar with multi-factor authentication? Yeah. I call it motherfucking authentication now. So Apple's like, we need to send this code to a trusted device. And I'm like, but I just wiped my trusted device. And the only other trusted device I have is on a softball field across town. And they're like, oops, sucks to be you. So I'm like, I'll just log back into my phone. The clock's ticking, it's like 6:27. The store closes at 7. I'm like, I'll just log back into my phone, let everything load, figure out my password, blah, 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 blah. But when I try to log into my phone, it also needs to motherfucking authenticate on a trusted device. And I did not have a trusted device. And I tried so many times that eventually it was like, you are in account recovery mode. Your stuff will be restored sometime around October 2nd. There's no way for you to get ahead in this queue. Don't even try. Sucks to be you. Fuck off. And I was like, okay. Now, somewhere in here I'd realized that when I got out of bed and went to the store, I wasn't wearing a bra. So I had been like fretting and pacing inside this UPS store with like, not looking my best, looking a little bit crazy. There's not a lot of crazy people in Falls Church, so we stand out. So I was doing that. And I'm like, I can't return this phone. I'm gonna be stuck with the bill and the phone. I just gotta go home because Avery's gonna be home from softball practice soon. And I go to get in my car and I realize, well, my home is only 1.6 miles away. I do not know how to get there. I mean, like, I know where it is generally, but the most direct route, no fucking idea. None. I've only lived in Arlington for 3 years. It was all pandemics for the first year. I literally never left the house. I've never even been to my grocery store. It's all Instacart, right? And obviously I don't know anything in fucking Falls Church. Like, it was terrible. So it takes me 45 minutes to go 1.6 miles home. I'm just hoping they don't drop Avery off to an empty house and call Child Protective Services on me, right? Because I can't get a hold of anyone. So I get home the next night, and here's a short list of things that I wasn't able to access anything. I'm trying to plan this show. Can't talk to the tellers. I had a show the next night that I had a new babysitter coming over for, and we were texting. Can't text her, don't know her name, never seen her. That's what a good mom I am. I found her on the internet, whatever. I can't get into my good apps that work because I can't authenticate them. I can't get into Google. I can't read my book. I can't whatever. So I can't even call the person, Louise, she's here, whose show I was going to be on Thursday, and let her know that I was not going to be ready. So instead, I go through the whole next day. On the way to Louise's show, I finally have gotten this old Apple Watch to like halfway work, and I'm like, I make it call Pierce, and I'm like, Pierce, it's me. I've been offline for 2 days. Tell the tellers they have to go through you, and can you conference call Louise? And so he's like, I guess so, you fucking moron. And because he goes through this a lot with me, I'm like, I don't know, I forgot when the show started. I forgot what the banner was. I forgot who the tellers are. Who's the liar? I don't know, but he's very nice. So he conference calls Louise, who is wondering where the fuck I am. I'm like, Louise, I'm on 395. I don't have GPS, so I don't know when I'm gonna get there. And everything I wanted to look up for this story has been locked away from me for 3 days, so I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I'm coming. And she was like, great. So I get there, I do the show. It was basically exactly like this. I go home, blah, blah, blah. I'm still suffering. Oh, but she says, how I ended the story that night was, she was like, just tell a story about an ADHD fail. And I'm like, Louise, my whole fucking life is an ADHD fail. I'm like, this is the big one. Okay, the next day, this is just a dumb ending to that story. That's a nice button ending. Try to hold it in mind when I tell you the way it really ended. I'm like, the next day, I have the right combination of Adderall and coffee in my system. It's Friday. I'm like kicking ass at work for once, getting shit done. And I'm like, the minute work ends, I'm like, I'm gonna call Apple. There's no way they're gonna make me wait till October 2nd. It was September 29th. Like, I can't get through the weekend. I've gotta call Apple. So now I have my daughter's old broken iPhone. And I Google Apple support, and a number pops up, and I hit enter, and it calls, and they're like, Apple support. And the guy's like, what? So I tell him my problem. He's like, oh yeah, I'll get your phone restored today. And then he starts talking really, really fast. And there's no way to tell this story without me sounding like a dumbass. But it was a complete scam. It was not Apple support. I let him download a remote browser. Sure did. Sure fucking did. Opened up the command prompt thing. He's like, open up the command prompt. Type in your Apple ID. Oh my God, look. 37 people in Wilmington, Delaware have compromised your password. They're trying to get into your PayPal account so they can get to your bank accounts. Show me your PayPal account. I'm like, oh my God, do I have a PayPal account? Okay. So I show him my PayPal account, and he's like, logged into it as he's like logging my keystrokes, and he's like flashing all these transactions up. He's like, did you pay $149 to this place in Britain? I'm like, no. And he's like, they're trying to get into oh look, you have your Wells Fargo account linked and your Chase account. They're trying to get into both of those. You better log on and see what's happening. I'm like, I better. It was now luckily, as I said, I did not have access to any of my passwords. Thank God. Sometimes our disabilities work for us. And it was at that point when I was like, desperately trying to conjure up my Wells. I texted my mom. I'm like, Mom, do you know my Wells Fargo password? She's like, what are you doing? She's like, I hope you're not talking to some dumb fuck online who's gonna steal your identity. She didn't say that. That's what I would have said to her. But as I had that moment, gave me enough time to be like, wait a minute. Apple support would not ask me to be on a remote control thing when I log into my Wells Fargo account. And I said, hey, how do I know you're from Apple? And he hung up. And I was like, I can't, and friends, I will stop this story now, but please know I couldn't even get into my accounts to check them because I still didn't have my password. But I have a phone now, everything's fine. Thank you for your attention to my story. Thank you. How many of you have been to Perfect Liars Club before? How many of you are here for the first time? All right, let me tell you a little bit about how the game is played. Perfect Liars Club is a storytelling show where you will hear 4 stories. 3 are true, and 1 is a lie. And it's your job to listen intently, remember those salient details, and then after all 4 tellers have done their thing, we will take a moment to calculate our votes, come back together for the interrogation round, which is when you'll have the opportunity to ask our storytellers penetrating, tough questions about the veracity of what they've said. And when that's all over, you will vote. And if history's any indication, you will not get it right. But we love you anyway. And that's how the game is played. There are no winners or losers at Perfect Liars Club. It's all just in good fun. Does that make sense? Okay. As an additional little lagniappe, that's a fancy word for you, that we have for our audience members. We also have something called bragging rights. Pierce McManus, are you somewhere with a microphone? Would you like to explain bragging rights?
Hello, is this Kara? Is that you? Are you calling? I don't recognize this number.
Oh, it's funny because it's true. Yes.
Hi everybody. I'm Pierce, and yes, bragging rights. So before we go to the intermission, four of the most astute people in the room, shall compete for bragging rights and go home with a suitable for framing document that I printed off at FedEx today. The way this works is if you think you know who's telling the lie before the interrogation round, you can stake your claim on it. You have 30 seconds or less to explain why they are the liar. And then when we reveal the liar at the end, one of you will go home with said certificate. So, if you think you know who's lying, raise your hand before we cut to intermission, and we'll go from there. Thank you for listening.
Nice flex about being able to use the printer at FedEx, Pierce. Appreciate that. You had your password handy or whatever. That's nice. Feels good.
I got my shit together.
All right. After all that, please welcome to the stage your tellers for tonight. First up is Emily.